Welcome students to the next session of control. In this session, we are going to look at some important aspects of controlling. In the previous session, you have seen the conceptual clarity. You have gone through the concept. Also, you have seen the nature, characteristics, and some important issues pertaining to the control. Now we are coming to a very important point, and I want to tell you here about the success of an organization. We can say that the success of an organization rests on effective controlling mechanism. And that's why the control is very important function of management. Let us look at some of the key points which show the importance of controlling in an organization. We will discuss some of these points at length later. First of all, we can say that it is the basis of future planning. It is that function of management which helps in achieving the objectives. Order and discipline in organization is possible through controlling. Conditioning to dynamic environment is also possible through controlling. Ever increasing size of business enterprise can also be linked with the controlling function, and it acts as an important aspect of the organization. To be and being competitive is another point that draws our attention towards the significance of controlling process. It facilitates the decision making, as mentioned earlier too. Control is helpful in coordination. Motivation is also possible through control mechanism. There is a detection of the mistakes through the control. It indicates its meaning on its own. And when there is a detection of mistakes, there is no doubt that there will be improvement in the performance of the organization. There will be economy. It will be facilitating the performance appraisal. Friends, now I will take into consideration some of the points to narrate the importance of controlling in business organization. To begin with, achieving organizational objectives, as you have seen, is the important purpose of the controlling process. I want to tell you here that controlling is implemented with the purpose of taking care of organizational objectives. The controlling detects any kind of deviation. Controlling detects any kind of deviation, and accordingly corrective actions are implemented in the organization. That is what is required. For successful organizations, this is a very important consideration, because this helps in reducing the gap between the expected and the actual results. And we can say in this way, it helps in achieving the organizational objectives. The organizations come into existence to achieve certain goals, certain objectives. Controlling is that mechanism by means of which the organizations are able to take care of these objectives? Simply, that's all kinds of checks are possible through control mechanism. And then, of course, the deviations can be detected, departures can be detected, variations can be detected, and the corrective steps are implemented. Second important factor for the controlling is that every organization, when we look at, we find few important things. Is that sometimes it's not comfortable when some changes take place. Controlling helps in coping with changes too. The organizations can think of changes. Which changes we are talking about is very important point. An organization has to put up with many changes in the environment, which can be the emergence of new product and technology. Of course, the change in the government regulations, change in the strategies of the competitors, of course, are important. So it is a kind of shield to business through the control process, that they, by observing others' activities, others' strategies, this by observing the government policies, regulations, they can plan accordingly. So whenever we plan accordingly, it means that we are controlling those issues which may come up at the later stage in business, which can cause inconvenience to businessman. Then comes a very important role of manager, which he plays in minimizing the wastages of resources and ensuring proper utilization of the available resources that leads to effective performance of the organization. The control makes efficient use of resources. Controlling allows the managers in minimizing the wastage of resources and ensuring proper utilization of the available resources that leads to effective performance by the organization. So, dear students, it is the control process, it is the mechanism, it is the charisma of the control which makes it possible that the organizations are able to minimize the wastages of resources and putting to proper utilization of the resources which can be misused otherwise. In addition to the efficient use of resources, managers, students can compare, or you can say they always compare. They always compare the work done with a set of provided standards defined for the work and determine whether the set standards are effective or there is a need of improvement in the standards. There is need for improvement in the standards that will lead to more accurate determination of the process efficiency. It is the core of the discussion, core aspect, where the use of standards is taking place. Just to analyze what we can do and what we are doing. Gap between what we can do and what we have done will be possible through the control mechanism, control exercise. Management every day has to take a lot of decisions. In week 8, we have seen decision-making process which does not move a single inch without the use of the control mechanism. Because the controlling helps the managers in determining the gap between thinking and actual implementation. It leads to better decision making and improves the overall performance of the organization. So determination, so the decision making are very closely connected with the control, because better decision making is possible. When better decisions are taken, the performance will automatically become better and better and better. Employees, students are the backbone of the organization. In every organization, of course, out of the three factors of production, that is man, machine, material, man, employees, or you can say human resource, is the most important component of the factors of production. The organizations must think of motivating the employees for the purpose of control. In every organization, employees are also aware that their performance is judged using some set of standards. Periodic and systematic evaluation of the employees' performance and accordingly rewarding the deserving employees in the form of bonus, increments, promotion, it leads to the employees getting more motivated in order to perform for the organization. So, motivation of the employees is also possible through the mechanism of the control. Not only the motivation of employees, but there are many other requirements of business wherein also we find the important role of the motivation process. Motivation is not important only for one segment. It is important for a number of aspects. Controlling, my dear students, brings about order and discipline in a regular operation of the organization. Employees are also bound by rules and regulations. These rules and regulations in organization reduce the unprofessional behavior in the organization. It is the control process by means of which we are able to make employees more professional in their work. They are not indulging into any kind of wrong or unfair practice when they are at work or outside the work. Discipline, needless to say, is required in every walk of life. In every walk of life, we need the discipline. We need the order. We find that it is something which is not very common sometimes. So it is to be taken into consideration. Friends, the maintenance of discipline and order in organization is very important, but at the same time, there is one more thing that should also not be ignored, that is the coordination. Controlling provides a common direction to all the activities of the organization and thus aligns employees' action with organizational goals and thus ensure optimum performance level. The coordination, control, decision making, these are all like a car where we use brake, we use steering wheel, we use accelerator. All these things have their own role to play. And we reach to our destination through making proper use of all these parts of the automobile. For example, if we are not taking care of the brakes, we will hit ourselves. If we are not using the steering wheel, we'll go to the wrong direction. If we are not taking care of the speed, we will be going very slowly. So clutch, speed, brake, this is accelerator, steering wheel, all are very important in a car. So in organization, if proper coordination is to be done, it requires, so all the functions of the car are linked with each other. So it is the decision making which is linked with one another or other functions of management. It provides a common direction to all the activities of the organization, and hence you can see that it improves the coordination in the system. Friends, after discussing the importance of control, now we are going to see the purpose of control. How does controlling fit in with the other three functions of management which I have been referring to time and again? If you recall, I told you about the planning, I told you about the organizing, I told you about the leading too. Now, point to be noted here is that how does controlling fit in with the other functions of management, which always have their own role to play? For example, the planning. We have seen in week 7 a detailed discussion about the planning process. Planning involves setting the direction and deciding how you will get there. Organizing is bringing people and material resources together in a working combination. Leading means inspiring people to best utilize these resources. And above all, students, controlling is checking to see if the plan is being followed by measuring the actual results and taking corrective actions. Control. Measuring the actual results with the planned results, and also by taking the corrective steps, corrective actions whenever necessary. This is the purpose of controlling. And here we throw some more light on the purpose of control in the light of this picture. You can see planning again is to set the direction. It will tell you, it will make you decide where you want to go and decide how the best to go about it. And if we are going to think about the creating of structures, means we are thinking about the organization. Organizing is done to create structures in organization. And of course, leading is to inspire people. It is inspiring effort. And the control is to ensure results simply by measuring the performance and by taking corrective actions. This is what we have been telling you in all this discussion for the last 2 sessions. And here you can see an effective system of control which helps in achieving the goals of organizations. What goals are there in which the control mechanism supports? Number 1 is the determining the progress of work. Number 2, detecting the deviations from the planned standards. Number 3 is investigating the causes of deviations. Taking corrective measures to check deviations. Keeping the loss due to faulty production within the minimum possible limit. Objectives of the controlling mechanism. Control is a process which is done through a number of steps we find that a business is a continuous activity. What is required is the progress. We have to determine the progress of work. And also, students, deviations from the targets or from the planned standards is done through control. It investigates the causes of deviation. And of course, if required, corrective steps are taken. And lastly, to keep the loss due to faulty production within the minimum possible limit is also one of the objectives. Okay, so these are the objectives of the control. We quickly have a look at the scope of control. The scope of control is very wide, my dear students. Here, I want to tell you that the control is required over a number of things in the organization. What these things are, when we find their effect, the control over the policies of organization, control over the personnel employed in the organization, control over the capital available to the concern, control over the capital expenditure in the organization, control over the production, control over the wages and salaries, control over the environment, control over the public relations, control over the research and development, and control over the tools and equipments and overall control. Now, I will throw a cursory glance on this scope part of the control mechanism. We all know very well that the policies of organization are very important. Control and the policies are very closely linked with each other. Then only the process will start. Any kind of departure in the policies of organization with the control mechanism will bring failure in the organization. Of course, the employees who are working in organization, they have some positions, they have some role. Control covers the employees engaged in the organization too. Capital is the lifeblood for organization. Capital available to the concern is very important. And here also, we have a role of the control process. How much will be the owned capital? How much will be the loaned capital? This will be decided. A decision about the owned capital and loaned capital lies under the cover of control. Capital expenditure is another concern. Those expenses which are incurred in business for long-term purposes, for acquiring the assets for long duration, then you can say which is other than the day-to-day expenditure is called capital expenditure. How much money is to be invested in the capital assets is the decision of the control process. Here the decision making is done but through the control mechanism, which keeps a check, an effective control, so that nothing wrong happens in the organization. Students, the wages and salaries of the employees working in the organization are also constituting a sizable part of the total expenditure of the organization. Wages and salaries given to the employees should be in tune with the time, in tune with the other organizations too. The amount given to them should be such that the happiness of the employees remains intact. Here also, control takes into consideration its role. A businessman may fail if it is continuing its operations all through. A business may not survive for a long time if the wages and the salaries are not controlled properly. Internal and external environment also has a big role which comes under the coverage of the control mechanism in organizations. Public relations, research and development, tools and equipments, and overall control, all these come under the purview of the scope of the control. So that's all for this session, students. In the next session, we'll look at some important aspects like the types of control on the basis of the time action. Thank you very much.